James, very good early morning to you. Thanks for joining. I guess it's still late in the evening for you. Either way, thank you very much for joining us. Good to see you. When I saw the headline that President Trump was leaving early, one assumed it might imply that the G7 were not united on the topic of Israel and Iran. But there was also a joint statement.
Yeah, there was. And actually, well, of course, it wouldn't have been the first time that Donald Trump had left a G7 summit in the huff. He had good reason for an early out, I suppose, talking about the need to deal with the Middle East. That's what his press secretary said. We got rather more detail from, of all people, President Emmanuel Macron. He was the PR on the case. He was the one who said, look, Trump's leaving early, yeah, but he's going to initiate discussions. There had been hair-raising postings on social media, actually, by Donald Trump himself on Truth Social, talking about everybody having to leave Iran or Tehran immediately. Sounded very belligerent, but it would appear to be the case that what he has on his agenda is dialogue, turning back to the negotiating table.
But on that note, even if there's an aim to turn back to the negotiating table, I guess 24 hours ago there might have been hope that things were calming down in the short term. Overnight, it doesn't seem like that's the case. Is there any sign that there are talks to begin between the two sides, indeed between the US and Iran specifically?
Yeah, hard signs. Will the Americans say that they are considering talks next week with the players who have been involved over the past 60 days? This American US envoy, Steve Witkoff, big buddy of Donald Trump, a real estate lawyer, the man who he sends around the world trying to sort out international problems with, it has to be said, limited success. So he's being lined up to get back to the table with the Iranians. And of course, the rules of engagement have changed somewhat. The talks initially drifted beyond that American-imposed deadline of 60 days. Trump, you know, he can claim some vindication, I think, because when we got to the 60 days, he effectively outsourced military action to the Israelis, if we believe that Americans had knowledge and involvement to a degree, which I think is generally accepted by this stage. So the outsourcing of Israeli military action, that's what has brought the Iranians to heel and forced them to reach out, actually, to Donald Trump to say, look, we want an immediate ceasefire. We want to get back around the table. So, you know, he has concentrated minds, Trump, and he has the Iranians, or Iranians, where he wants them right now. The question is how he exploits that opportunity.
James, what time did the executive order get signed to kind of cement large parts, perhaps not all, of the UK-US trade deal? And how big a focus point was it there at the G7? On one level, you could see it as rather annoying for Mark Carney, the host, of course, who doesn't have a trade deal with the US.
That's right, yeah, a bit of a sideshow, I suppose, for Carney and the others, but front and centre, clearly, for Sir Keir Starmer, the UK Prime Minister, who has been hovering around Donald Trump, waiting for this deal to be enacted, such as it is. And frankly, well, we still need to pore over the fine print of this detail to test its effectiveness and to test how good and to what degree is this a success for the United Kingdom. I have to say, the theatre around it all didn't quite come off well, did it? You had Trump and Starmer walking out in front of the press, big folder, Trump saying, well, we have this deal, and he called it a deal between the US and the European Union, then proceeded to drop the papers on the floor. Keir Starmer bending down to pick up the sheets of paper. So all very messy in terms of the performance art and the presentation of it. But yeah, I mean, front and centre for Keir Starmer, that's what he came, one of his principal aims in coming here in terms of the UK self-interest. I'm just watching a screen with, as you may be, Wolf, of Donald Trump coming off the helicopter, making his way across the tarmac to get to Air Force One, making the long journey back to the White House. It will take him, well, he'll be travelling overnight, leaving behind him, of course, the G7, with whom You know, he has had a rocky relationship in the past, but as you mentioned, there was a degree of success today. There was the UK-US trade deal. There was this joint accord